my dad's funeral that I realised funerals are so absurd. We expect people to get up and give a speech they were in no fit state to write. They're wearing something uncomfortable. The weather's always bad. Something always goes wrong. It's never a good show. I think my whole family laughing together at Dad's funeral was one of the most important moments of my life. I mean, it was very cathartic.
Lasagna won't make up for my dead dad, but thank you so much. What's that more lasagna? Thank you, Rad. Heat it up for lunch. Lasagna for tea, lasagna for me, lasagna till I die like my dead dad.
I think comedy is a pretty good cure for grief, or just a good friend to grief.
If somebody near you was laughing quite a bit, I want you to turn to them and I want you to say sorry for your loss.
She's willing to sort of take her heart out of her chest and go, here it is, this is what has happened to me, this is my life, and I hope that when I tell you this, it gives you something.
You can come close.
And I think it does touch people quite deeply.
Yeah, you can give me a hug.
After the show, there's always a line of people to talk to her. I think it's a way that people can process their own grief.
How's she doing?
She's all right, but it was just...
Physiologically, laughing, crying and singing are all really close. And so I'm always on the edge of one of them, and I like it. I like that. Do you want a hug? Come here. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. Come here. No, more.
Stop crying.
It's okay.
Thank you.
We're off to New York City to do the show off-Broadway, which is quite mad, but, you know, obviously really exciting. And then we are going back to the UK.
So Average Bear is a show that Michelle and I have been performing across the world for the past 3 years now. It's essentially the telling of Michelle's life and potentially having less time on Earth than the average bear.
Sometimes in a young girl's life, Average Bear is a show about hope, I think. I hope. It's the story of losing my brother and my dad, and then, you know, being told by doctors that I didn't have a very great outlook in terms of my genes. So it's about limited time and how I'm going to spend it. I think I started comedy because it was, at the time, one of the scariest things I could think of to do. I like to do scary things. I'm afraid that I will die young. And so with my health, like if I'm going to end up having to fight for myself, I want to get some training hours up in the ring, you know? And comedy is pretty good for that stuff.
I'm peeling pistachios for my brother because the chemo has burned his fingertips and he can't use them anymore. He's usually not hungry because of the chemo, but we smoke weed and then he is, and if you're a cop, I don't want to...
There was hype. There was, you know, you've got to go see what Michelle's done with this show. I thought it was just going to be like, you know, silly sketches and stuff. And then she had the audacity to break my heart.
My mum, my Catholic mum, is so impressed that she says, well, if he can't get it, then I'll bloody well grow it myself. No, I will, Shell. I'll go down to Bunnings and I'll figure out how to grow it, and I will. No, I'll grow it my bloody well self. I will. We don't tell Mum it's easy to get weed.
I absolutely worry that I might lose her. To look at her family history and her genetic disposition is terrifying.
I've been told by a doctor that I have a 97% chance of developing cancer as well.
For her, every lump, bump, change is absolutely terrifying because she thinks that maybe it's the day that that 97% has turned into 100%.
And there are tests that I can do to find out exactly what is going on for me, and things that I can do, life-saving measures that I can take once I have those results. But once I do that test, a life insurance company can take those results and use them against me, and they can do that to you as well. Life insurance can be denied to you based on any genetic test that you have, which is quite mad. So that's something I've become really passionate about recently.
Michelle has never been afraid to voice her opinions. Growing up, she would always challenge anything and fought for what she believed in, and she never backed down, and still doesn't.
you go. This is your baby one.
That's my baby one?
This is your baby one. That's Dad. That's your dad. And that's Susie.
We mostly grew up in Wagga, in the Riverina. Mum and Dad were both teachers in a local community. We were a pretty tight-knit family.
Yeah, look at this. It's so good.
We had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Wow, we thought we were done. But 11 years later, along came Michelle, our little surprise packet.
Surprise. Best mistake you ever made.
Your father said that. She was spoiled. I'll be honest, she was spoiled. That's Paul there, that one.
He was a grown man when I was a tiny baby.
He was 15.
A lot of the time she grew up like an only child because she was so much younger. She was sort of doing different things.
Don't do that to my piano.
This is my piano.
It's mine. That's mine.
Paul and I were more of the sporty type, where she sort of took the music path after Mum. She was very dramatic.
I was the worst child. I was so annoying. I would put on plays for anyone who would look at the supermarket, and I was always singing. But my parents never told me to shut up. They were very supportive of all of my delusions. We're at Coringal High School, which is my high school where I learnt to sing and dance. We had a huge performing arts culture, which was really, really nice here, which I'm really proud of. Wagga Wagga, it felt like a safe place to learn how to become, I guess, a weird little horny teen.
Don Adams rode up on his skateboard, tells me that he likes me, offers me a cheese roll, knows how to excite me, don't want him to know, but I am really nervous, takes me by the hand, says, do you want to go to the fingering shed? I Coringal high to the fingering shed. I Coringal high.
I did not know there was a fingering shed. But the interesting thing was, once the song came out, there were a couple of ex-teachers who said, oh, we knew about it.
Somebody went on Google Maps and put it as a little pin. So you can Google where's the fingering shed. Every school has one.
The fingering shed is no more. Ave Maria.
I left home when I was 18. I moved out of Wagga and moved to Melbourne because I got into the Victorian College of the Arts, which was really cool, to study musical theatre. But I was also 18, and from an acting perspective, they were like, you haven't had any life experience. Go and get some more life experience and then you can come back. And so I went and I got so much life experience. I was living in this share house on St Kilda Road. It was old and run down. It was really drafty. Dad bought me a heater so that it wouldn't be quite so cold.
She was sitting in front of the heater and her clothing caught fire.
She had stockings on and she could smell something burning, and her legs were actually alight. The stockings had melted onto her legs.
I had 3rd-degree burns. So I had to have a few skin grafts, and the recovery from that takes a really long time and is really painful.
She had to turn around then and learn to walk again. And all of that, it was just a horrendous time for her.
I remember being like, well, VCA is going to love all this life experience that I'm going to come back with. But I left the hospital and just walked into a completely changed world, really.
When John got sick, Michelle was 20. He went off to the doctor to say he was feeling unwell. They did some tests and he was diagnosed with cancer.
Dad had pancreatic cancer. When they diagnosed it, it was stage 4, which is really common for pancreatic cancer.
It was 2 weeks from the time that I knew he had cancer till the day he left us. It was 2 weeks.
The world felt smaller for the first time. The world had always felt so huge because my parents had made it feel so big. The feeling that I had was like, there's so much that is gone. My mum is Catholic, but my dad wasn't. My brother and my sister and I wanted to make his Catholic funeral a bit cheeky, I think. So we put just like country music in because he didn't like hymns.
But unfortunately, we got a little bit confused and the song didn't play as he was carried out of the church. The song played at the cemetery as my dad's body was lowered into the ground.
I fell into the ring of fire, went down, 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 and the flames went higher, and it burns, 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 the ring of fire.
My family and I are in fits of hysterics. It is the best funeral ever. No offense to all of your funerals, which I'm sure will be a hoot.
After losing Dad and nearly losing my leg, I couldn't go back to VCA. I wanted something new because I felt new and the world felt different. I auditioned for the Arts Academy in Ballarat and then I got in. I didn't know that I was going to do comedy.
Oh my God, no, I won't do a song. I can't, I'm too shy.
I'd seen little comedy cabarets and so I was like, all right. And I wrote 10 minutes about being in love with Aladdin.
Because mostly I wanted to fuck Aladdin.
And then that was the thing that people gave me attention for, which is what I so crave.
Yeah, mostly I wanted to have sex with the fictional character of Aladdin.
I went to see her at a cabaret venue. She was so high energy. I remember just in that moment being like, this is someone really exciting and I want to work with her.
Boys!
She's one of the boys.
She's just one of the boys.
Yes!
She met up with the Auntie Donna boys and she became part of their act.
She's one of the boys.
She's like one of the
We like to describe ourselves as, we're like Monty Python if they weren't as good.
How did you get that through there?
I was at home. I had breakfast. I jammed a stick through my hand.
Just
Then
stop
I
for a
did
second.
maths class. So somewhere in between those events.
Michelle and I, we both went to the Ballarat Arts Academy musical theatre course. Starting in comedy at a similar time, we learnt a lot from each other. So we were both in this cabaret comedy called Backwards Anoraks. We were performing at Melbourne Comedy Festival and in walks Karen Corrin, who's the head of Gilda Balloon, one of the big venues in Edinburgh, sees the show and says, "You've got the gig. We're going to Edinburgh in 2 months. Sort it out."
Finding new talent is what we do, and Michelle is one of a really great talent.
Try and preview in a month or so.
It was the voice that attracted me to going to see her in the first place. I had no idea she had funny bones.
Stalks are we, stalks of Winterfell, chilly Winterfell.
I saw these guys and it was just so much fun. I thought Michelle was just so talented to be that funny, and her voice is incredible.
That was really the start of things blowing up for Michelle. She's loved going back over to Edinburgh every year.
Double denim, double denim, double denim. High five, yeah! Who wants to see some art? Not me.
Wasn't it just something that Barnaby Joyce, Peter Dutton and Craig Kelly made up?
Well, where there's a smoking ceremony, there's fire, sure.
I'd even settle for a bride a bit Mediterranean, but Frederick, my dear, you didn't say she was Tasmanian.
Michelle Brasier!
There was definitely an evolution in the way Michelle wrote her comedy. And there was a moment where she really started to engage with who she was and where she's from. That was genuinely where you felt her career kind of take a step up, I think.
When I
She now is loved and sells out all around the world on every telly show and is dominating, and she's done it her own way.
Thank you so much for being Michelle Brasier. Good night.
At the second Edinburgh Fringe, we went back hoping it was going to be just as good as the first one, but unfortunately, just before we left, Michelle's brother had received a cancer diagnosis.
My brother and I were always really close. Paul, or Brasier as everyone called him, he was 15 when I was born, and he carried me around all the time. He took me to his Year 10 formal. People called me Brasier's baby.
Things don't go your way, but baby, things don't
He loved music, and he would always sing with me. Yeah, he was my biggest champion. Paul was diagnosed with cancer when he was only 42, and it was stage 4, so it was a real shock.
Paul had made it very clear to Michelle that she was to go and do her performance in Edinburgh because that's what he wanted.
I thought that I had more time, but he went while I was there. He died while I was in Edinburgh.
And just before he slips away, he requests a song. So I find a room with a piano and I record it for him. Of all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company. Oh, and all the harm I've ever done, alas, it was to none but me.
I remember being in our apartment and the call coming through and just hearing her cry. And I haven't heard that sound before. It was, heartbreaking.
This is where my brother currently lives, because I don't know what I'm supposed to do with him. If I take him out of the box, then I have to pick where to put him. And making decisions is hard. I feel, quite paralysed when I have to make a big decision, one that feels like it has meaning.
A week after my brother's funeral, I was in rehearsals for Legally Blonde the musical. It's this funny woman who gets to sing her absolute arse off and dance for 3 hours, and I think that's the best way to be grieving, to be completely honest. And that's where I met Tim.
I played the role of Warner, who is Elle's boyfriend at the start of the show. So I had to break up with her every night for 15 nights or something like that, and 8 years later, we're still together.
New York.
Yeah, New York.
So we get in Sunday and then...
In Michelle's shows, Tim plays accompaniment.
When I was young...
He's very selfless with the way he performs. He is facilitating something that's bigger than him, and bigger than, I guess, the both of them.
In her convertible, it's time for mimosas with the girl.
I think at first Tim was really unsure about what he'd gotten himself into, because he came into my life properly at the time when I was, seeing genetic counsellors for the first time.
She was starting to look into her family history because she was starting to, put the puzzle pieces together and join the dots and see that there is a chance that she has some genetic history of something.
I was texting Mum yesterday and she was like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, your dad's brother also died of pancreatic cancer. So it's my dad, his mother, and his dad's brother. So it's on both sides of my dad's family."
Doctors have told her that there's about a 97% chance that she will develop some form of cancer in her life. There's talk about Lynch syndrome.
Lynch syndrome is a predisposition to bowel cancer, pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancers, things like that. Just means, whenever there's a lump or anything, I get quite fast-tracked. But my stress gets really fast-tracked too. So I'm just getting some checks. There's a fancy new lump in town. I think everyone gets weird lumps and things, but I notice them more. Abundance of caution. I went to a psychologist and I was like, I'm afraid of dying. Every time there's like a pimple that's bigger than it should be, I think I am dying. And he was like, your response is rational. You're being rational. And I was like, don't tell me that. Tell me I'm being crazy. And then teach me how to stop being crazy. But he was like, this is what your life is. A very fancy Valentine hotel. Let's go again.
She's had scare after scare after scare. We've had ultrasounds, we've had biopsies, we've had every test that you could think, almost.
At least it's familiar.
So far, they've all come back the way that we want them to, with negative health impacts.
Thank you for being here, Tim.
That's okay.
Has anyone in your family had a genetic test yet?
No. I didn't really put it together until it was like, oh, hang on, what did Dad's mum die from again?
Michelle's had someone tell her about this potential 97% chance of cancer in her lifetime. Now, that's very high. I can understand why it would be worrying. Investigating it is reasonable. But current Australian guidelines for carriers of Lynch syndrome give lower risks for cancer than 97%.
I want to do everything preventative as much as I can. But
The decision before Michelle is, do I carry on as things are going without knowing, or do I try to find out more information through a genetic test? To me, it's actually about making a decision that sits right with you.
The first time I was presented with the idea of genetic testing, I was in my early 20s. It was like, this sounds like a problem for grown-up me. Now I'm getting closer to how old my brother was when he died. This is a real choice I need to make. And so I'm looking more and more into this idea of getting the testing. And then I discovered something I hadn't even thought about before.
Genetic testing is becoming more common. But some people aren't getting tested because they're worried about life insurance. In some circumstances, life insurance providers are restricting access to cover if a person is found to be high risk.
For a lot of people like Michelle, when they go to see a genetic counsellor, we have to tell them that the life insurer can use your genetic risk to deny you cover, increase the cost of your premiums, and that's even if you haven't had any disease or cancer yourself.
I would always advocate for more conversations with genetics, especially as...
Jane Tiller is an academic leading the charge against this kind of genetic discrimination.
It's an awful choice that people have to make, deciding whether to look after their preventive health or look after their financial future. We know, especially with cancer, if we treat it at an early stage and we find out about it, people are much more likely to survive. If we don't know about our genetic risk, we can't.
My husband and my dad died of pancreatic cancer 4 months apart.
Jane introduced me to other women who are really active in the fight against genetic discrimination.
I haven't had the test done because of the insurance. I do want to know.
The federal government is currently considering making genetic discrimination illegal. And I think we just need them to know that this isn't going to be something that goes away. We're not going to back down until they do.
And I don't want to have this conversation with my kids and then be like, don't get tested because, if you're supporting your family, it's going to have implications.
If government needs to muscle up and make it impossible for life insurance companies to discriminate against people, well, then that's what we should do.
There's definitely a common perception that genetic tests will give you a black and white answer. But if Michelle goes through genetic testing and we don't find anything, we do not say, now you're free to go. We actually say, we want you to continue with all of the screening measures and health checks that you are already having because we're worried we might have missed something.
I hate that. I hate that. The idea that they can be like, yeah, no, who knows? It just becomes harder and harder to make any decisions. Are you feeling nervous about the show?
I sort of don't know what to expect.
Nothing bad. Performing the show in my hometown to my mum and my sister felt like an out-of-body experience.
Box of tissues.
Broadway isn't scary, Wagga is scary. Everyone's seen it, except for you. And the boys, because they are dead. So they haven't seen it.
Which boys?
The boys that are in our family that have died.
Oh! Because Michelle is so frank and so open, yes, I was a little bit worried about what she might say.
I'm gonna walk out there and see my mum. Have to look her in the eyes and make jokes about her, but also remind her of the hardest part of her life. And so I sing for my brother, I sing for my father, and I sing for my mother who has lost too much.
It was amazing. She's got you crying 1 minute and the next minute you're rolling in the aisles laughing. Such clever use of tragedy and comedy. Yeah, very proud of her.
Off we go again. I don't know how many times we've been at the international airport this year, possibly 400, but let's go.
And where are you guys off to today?
London.
I don't know Michelle before cancer in her life, but I know that it drives her. She is non-stop and she goes after every opportunity, and it's because she's not sure how long she's going to be here to get to do it all.
They say that I'm young, I have a head start, and so my body is a temple and I go to yoga. And they say that I will die young, and so I party and I do this for a job and I haven't consolidated my super. And maybe everyone should live like me. Yoga in the morning, whiskey in the evening, never miss a sunset.
I've made peace, I guess, with the fact that I can't control my health. I can do everything I can, and then I have to take a step away. And so the next best thing that I can do is just to enjoy my time.
Sorry about the bit where people die, but hopefully you're feeling fine. I've got you if you need to cry. If you felt nothing, fuck you. You feel your feelings, I'll feel mine. And now we've reached the finish line. My favorite apple type is pine. I'll be downstairs, come have a wine.
ABC's Jones Storm Michelle Brasier.
Eva,
I don't think enough's been spoken about the dog.
We are the parents of dogs.
Eva is best friends with my dog. They like do full French kisses.
Eva came over my house for a New Year's Eve party, did a poo, and it made everyone leave.
And then the smell came. I said to Michelle, I'm going to do a one-man cabaret about me overcoming the time that your dog shit in my lounge room.
Maybe that could be the Australian story.